Hey everybody, how's it going? Christian from Treasure Town here, and today in my hands I have a crisp looking $1 silver certificate from 1935. But there's a lot of different years that have had the silver certificate $1 small size, so I figured that what I'd do is put together a presentation about the different $1 silver certificates and talk about their value, some of the history, what you want to know about these notes. So let's go to that presentation and I'll give you all the information that you probably want to know. So, in terms of the first type of silver certificate in a small size on the $1 bill, it was from 1928. And before you say, that is definitely not what it is, what happened to this flea bitten upper right hand of the note? This is the first of these that were ever made, so I figured it would be cool to get a photo of that. Unfortunately, it's not in the best condition, but that's why that is, just to get that out of the way. But the 1928, it was the first and only type of silver certificate for 1928. This looks similar to the silver certificate throughout, but there was actually a different back, and I'll show you that in the next slide. But the silver certificates came in 6 series. There was the regular 1928, which we see here. There's also 28A through E. Circulated notes of the common types are generally worth like $5 to $10 when they're pretty circulated, while the uncirculated ones will creep up in price to around the $40 mark. Just so you know, those are for the A, B, and no letter notes. The C through E gets a lot rarer. And the star notes for these, which is the replacement notes, it's just as an aside, something you always want to look for, especially on older notes. These ones are worth about $40 to $300 in the grade ranges, 40 being circulated, 300 being uncirculated on the easy ones. Now, the prices get higher for the C and the D notes. These are going to be $50 to $400 for regular ones, so that's even more expensive than an A, B, or no letter star note. And then the star notes are going to start around $1,500 for the really circulated copies. So we're talking about some very serious money here. A 28E, though, triples from the increased C and D price. So that means a heavily circulated regular one is $150, an uncirculated one is in $1,200, and then a really circulated star note is going to be in the high 4 figures, so a little bit below $10,000. So the interesting thing is, though, the E-notes are actually printed in 1934 for a short time. So it's not like all of these are being made in 1928. It's just the series, and then that continues. And you'll see that pattern as we go across the different types. I'll just show you momentarily what they call the funny back. And this appeared on all the 28s and all of the 1934s. 35 is when they switch it. But it's just a kind of cool, different looking one from what we have today. The 1935 switches to the reverse that we're seeing to this date. The 1934, as you can see, is pretty similar on the obverse to the last one, and it has that same funny back, but there's not a ton of different information on this because all are 1934. As I was saying, it stretches with the A, B, C, D, E up to 1934. Since they'll be replaced in 1935, we don't get a chance to have lots of different series. And these sell for about $12 in circulated shape, ranging up a little bit. But in terms of the uncirculated ones, they're probably worth about $60. If you have a pack of 100 consecutive notes, that's going to be about $6,000. So I'll tell you the values for the packs of 100 in a row as we go, and they'll decrease, but it's a very good pack to have if you do have it on these uncirculated 1934s. Now, one of the unfortunate things is, outside of something like this where it's a really low serial number, the 1935, they changed the back, but they're just printed in a ton of quantity. So these are probably worth $1.50 in circulated condition, unfortunately. And they're series regular and then A through H. So it spans a very long period of time. Star notes, unfortunately, don't have much of a markup either, in the $3 to $5 range, but a star note in like the 64, 65 gem unk might be a $30, $35 bill. So we're not really talking too much value here. The only interesting thing is, on some of these, there's going to be an In God We Trust on the currencies starting 1956, so that makes it onto the 35G and 35H bills, but not any from the F and earlier. And then interestingly, there's also a bunch of different varieties on the 1935A, the RNS, the Hawaii, and the North African. So I'll talk about those each briefly. And I'll start here with the Hawaii silver certificate. They were made for use in Hawaii in case Japan took their land over. Then they could cancel all of these and say that they weren't worth anything. And these notes are pretty interesting because they've got the brown seal on the obverse. They have Hawaii printed twice here, and then clearly across the back of the note, Hawaii as well. So they're cool collector's items. A $15 price is what you'll probably get for a heavily circulated one, while $120 is at the top range. And then the thing is, there's these blocks. So this was the CC block. And the thing is to look for rare blocks. So LC, PC, CC, and YB are more tough to find on the uncirculated side, while the ZB and AC blocks are going to be the best blocks to check out. Interestingly, the paper on these notes is a little darker than normal, and the centering often is not great, so the actual bill might have thicker edges appearing on one side as opposed to the other. And then the star notes were made, but they didn't start from 1, so there aren't any low serial number star notes, which is kind of unfortunate, but they trade for between $100 and a little over $1,000 when you have one of the stars. 1935A, we see the North African notes denoted by their yellow seal, which is also pretty interesting, but they don't have anything special on the back, so I didn't include anything, and aren't too rare either. They're like $25, so slightly better than the Hawaiis, and then $150 in the uncirculated range. And these were during World War II. They were fighting in North Africa, so these were traded over there. Also could be rejected if they fell into the wrong hands. The star notes can be pretty good, $150 for the starting point, and then above $1,000 for the high grade uncirculated ones. And the FC block is the one that you really want to check out. This is a BC, but the F would be a better one to look for. The interesting thing is, though, on those star notes, there's only 144,000 star notes made, so it's a pretty low number. And the only star in the denomination that has an open star inside for the North African notes, where the other North African star notes do not have the open star. That's just a bit of random fact that probably isn't too relevant. Moving on, we have something really interesting and something that I didn't really focus on or know about before I did this video, but the R and S silver certificates from 1935, also Series A, and basically there were an idea to make new types of paper, so they stamped 1,184,000 of these notes with an R for regular, and the new paper was with an S for special, and the notes are worth about $40 circulated and go up to about $250 uncirculated, but there's only 12,000 of each star note, so they're extremely expensive. I saw a gem uncirculated one sell for $15,000 in 2016, so a nice looking copy of those would be a huge monetary find. And our last one is our friendly 1957 silver certificate. We see a lot of these. They're really common. They're worth $1.50 as well, and they come in a regular one, a Series A and Series B. $25 or $30 is what they'll sell for in pretty high grades. There's consecutive packs that you can get of 100, and those can be found for about $450 or $4.5 each. So uncirculated, not going to be a huge money booster there. And then the good one to look for here is the BB block, and those can be found for about $40 in decent condition. I saw one sold for that on eBay, and they're the rarest block by quite a bit. In terms of star notes, they're not too remarkable, and they're worth about $3 and then $10 in the uncirculated range. I think it could tick up a little bit if you get a very high-end uncirculated star note, but not a ton of value to be had there. But that kind of wraps it up. There's a lot of history on these little known, little explored set and series. So it's pretty interesting to see the depth that it actually has to offer. Thanks for watching the video. I'd encourage you to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to get in touch with me, do so on my website, treasuretownyt.com, my Instagram, treasuretownyt, or my Facebook,
Treasure Town. I've got links in the description, and I'll see you on some of my other videos.